Flight 13's Ship 40 splashdown and V3 satellite checkout moved the first orbital tower catch one flight closer. Ship 40 completed a precise ocean splashdown after delivering stable re-entry data through the plasma phase. Aviation Week imagery shows visible tile patterns on the recovered upper stage. The flight cleared a ship catch attempt for Flight 14, the first planned orbital return to the tower. The program now shifts focus to booster catch hardware validation on the next mission. Remember, we covered the ongoing flight test campaign yesterday. Today's results move the catch goal forward by clearing the ship recovery for the next attempt. The same mission delivered the first on-orbit proof of the next Starlink generation. The initial V3 satellites deployed their solar arrays and fired their thrusters successfully. They established both radio frequency and laser inter-satellite links with the existing constellation. Onboard cameras returned imagery of the Starship upper stage during the flight. These steps mark the first public validation of the V3 bus design. The Starlink account on X posted the update directly. A Falcon 9 lifted off overnight from Cape Canaveral carrying the classified NROL-95 payload. The booster performed a downrange landing on a drone ship, and the launch produced an audible sonic boom across central Florida. A second Falcon 9 is scheduled to lift off from Vandenberg Space Force Base on Friday evening. Both missions add flight experience to the active booster fleet under the current manifest. Local spotters are already tracking the planned downrange recovery zone for the Vandenberg flight. Recent analysis shows that scaled production of the current tiled heat shield system can still reach acceptable per-flight costs. The study compares material and refurbishment expenses against projected flight rates. It concludes that reuse margins remain viable if tile replacement stays below a defined threshold per mission. The report directly counters earlier assessments that the tiled approach would prove uneconomic at high cadence. Supermicro and Dell are supplying modular rack systems that SpaceX is integrating into new AI-focused facilities. Each unit arrives pre-integrated with power distribution and liquid cooling manifolds. The building block approach allows incremental power and cooling additions without full facility redesigns. An independent forecast now aligns with earlier projections that SpaceX-linked AI infrastructure will reach 8 gigawatts of capacity by 2027 to 2028. Cursor announced a partner program that pairs its editor with reference architectures from AWS, BCG, Databricks, McKinsey, NVIDIA, and Snowflake. The effort aims to produce documented deployments that other organizations can replicate. The program focuses on measurable adoption metrics and repeatable integration patterns. Observers on X noted that the V3 satellites returned the first public images of a Starship upper stage taken from another spacecraft in orbit. Reddit threads highlighted the exact timing of the laser link acquisition sequence shown in the Starlink update. Aviation Week readers pointed out the visible tile patterns on Ship 40 in post-flight imagery released by the company. Worth keeping an eye on, a U.S. House Democrat has asked Elon Musk to address emissions and water use tied to XAI data center construction. The inquiry focuses on power generation choices and cooling demands at the planned sites. SpaceX has not yet responded to the request. The letter highlights the scale of the facilities now under active procurement. On the AI front, Cursor's new Benchmark Partners program brings AWS, BCG, Databricks, McKinsey, NVIDIA, and Snowflake together to publish reference enterprise deployments. Supermicro and Dell are shipping modular rack systems that SpaceX is installing in its expanding AI facilities. An independent report now projects the same 8 gigawatts of SpaceX-linked AI data center capacity by 2027 to 2028. That earlier forecasts had outlined. The partner program is intended to create replicable stacks that combine Cursor's editor with enterprise-grade infrastructure and governance tools. From an engineering standpoint, the modular data center blocks now arriving from Supermicro and Dell change the economics of scaling AI infrastructure by collapsing the traditional build-once model. Instead of pouring a single large hull whose power and cooling capacity must be sized for the final load years in advance, each block ships with its own power distribution, liquid cooling manifolds, and network spine already integrated. The raw material cost of the steel racks, copper buswork, and aluminum cold plates inside one block is only a few % of the delivered price. The multiplier comes from the certification, integration testing, and rapid deployment logistics that let SpaceX add hundreds of megawatts without halting existing clusters. Because the blocks are electrically and thermally self-contained, incremental capacity can be brought online in weeks rather than months, directly shortening the time between capital outlay and revenue-generating inference or training runs. This approach also reduces the gap between the cost of the underlying silicon, metal, and kilowatt hours and the cost of a fully commissioned rack. The design choice trades a modest increase in per block overhead for the ability to match compute growth to actual demand rather than long-range forecasts. The blocks function like shipping containers for power and cooling, allowing the operator to treat each addition as an independent, verifiable unit. The result is a lower effective cost per delivered GPU hour once utilization begins, because idle over-provisioned infrastructure is minimized. The next measurable milestone will be how quickly the first 8 gigawatts tranche moves from rack delivery to sustained multi-exaflop utilization. Early data from the initial installations will show whether the interconnect and power handoff between blocks maintains the low latency performance required for large training runs. If the blocks achieve the projected deployment cadence, the same modular logic could later extend to orbital compute nodes where mass and power constraints make traditional Hall-style construction impossible. And a quick market note, SPCX closed at $112.20, down 0.8%. Before we go, Flight 14's tower catch attempt will test whether the ship recovery architecture scales to orbital velocities. That's the day at SpaceX. That's a wrap. SPCX is trading at $112.20, down 0.8%. If you're new here, subscribe and this briefing finds you every day. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts on tech, science, and markets, each one a short, sharp briefing you can finish on the commute. If today earned its place in your feed, here's your next listen. First Principles Daily, reasoning from raw materials, not analogy, on the breakthroughs that actually cut cost. Find every show free at naranetwork.com. Following the long arcs, story trackers on naranetwork.com follow major programs across episodes: Tesla, SpaceX, AI, space science, and more. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.